Oh, that, the little.
Yeah, the little. See, now you'll look at the counter, and we are now at this point live. So if you want to wait 10 seconds to put yourself on, you're good. The microphone is framed as you can see, and we're ready to go. And when I turn it off or change it up, I'll show you how to do that. It's almost as simple.
This is pretty much how you want it, though.
Yeah. So I try to get a busted head shot if I can. I like to get the face.
I think it's about 7 o'clock.
That's okay. Go ahead.
You're ready.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Listen to the following announcements. Thank you.
Hear ye! Welcome to Sacred Grounds with Dan Brady as the current host of this, the longest running open mic in the known and unknown universe, serving up good food and fine poetry since 1972. Please support the reading by enjoying food and drink served here, and give Teddy a hand. Teddy, thank you, Poetry of all kinds, ladies and gents, is welcome, but we ask you to respect the mic. Keep conversations to a whisper, but put phones please on mute or vibrate, and do not distract the speaker or pass in front of them. Again, do not distract the speakers or pass in front of them or even behind them. Remember, keep to the time limit, which is 4 or 5 minutes, because we have 2 shows, the 7-ish and the 8:40-ish shows, and going long cuts someone else's time. We keep everyone on the mic. Sacred's longest standing tradition. Ongoing theme. Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has ever has. Margaret Mead. This evening's theme is
Joy.
joy. One word, joy. Also, next week's feature will be...
Oh, hold on a minute.
Hold on a minute.
No, not him. His sister.
On the whole.
Mr. Sanderow and friends.
Oh, no, that's December 4th.
Wait a minute. Hold
Hey,
on.
man.
You got the wrong page.
That's what I thought.
Wait a minute.
And we are waiting for the official next week's feature will be...
Hoping.
Oh, it's Clara Sue.
Clara Sue, all right.
11/27, Clara Sue.
Clara Sue.
So,
The keynote is
Tommy
Tom. Our feature is
Martin Hickle, who's not in the house yet, but he will be. I reminded him 17,463 times.
who will give you the Queen's Way.
Should he arrive, which he will.
As to the second show,
Second show,
the last word will be
the Sander L.
I think he writes in cursive.
Yes, the cursive writer.
the mini feature is.
Don Collier, who I called, who's not here but will be here. Thank you.
We keep hearing about will be. And we have fabulous door prizes, such as...
Well, we don't have very many. We only have 2 because I ran out of everything I was bringing. American Archaeology and Via the Heart of Wine Country, returning to Napa and Sonoma in your own comfort. But if those don't float your boat, you can be a mini feature, a co-pilot. We have 2 of those. Keynote, you'll see Tommy do that. Choosing the theme or prompt, someone chose joy, which is a good plan. I like that. I don't have one of joy, but never mind, that's me. Another co-pilot, and the last word, which starts and concludes the second show.
Be advised,
Be advised.
although we record the evening, if an audience member wishes to do so, please ask permission. We will assume you've done so. Thank you. Let the festivities begin now.
So that means, Tommy have a cold maker. Tommy have a cold maker. We like you anyway. Come on, round of applause. Come on, Pete. Let's go. Wake up right there.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear this guy.
Okay, so I'm supposed to read the words of somebody else?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
plan.
So I want to start with a quote. The role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible. That was not me, I wish it was, but it wasn't. That's Tony Cade Bombada, who was a writer back in the 70s, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. And now I'm going to read something from my old friend Jack Vesey's book, one of his many books. Jack is no longer with us. We lost him about 2 years ago. We both grew up in Philly, and in different parts of Philly. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, he grew up in an Irish neighborhood. But we shared something called Catholic school. Yeah. It's actually worse than any of the horror stories you've heard about it. Seriously.
Sister Mary Elephant.
Worse than that. So this is a poem which is based on a true story. Jack was kind of a brat in school, like I was in high school, and we both loved to annoy the priest in high school. And this is one of his many adventures, many delightful adventures in Catholic school in South Philly, in Philly. In the early 1970s, in high school biology lab, Father Flaherty required that every boy cut up a frog. This was gross. But it might not have been so bad if the frogs had been dead already. They were kept refrigerated in flat boxes that looked like they should hold pizza. They'd been chloroformed or something. The cold slowed down body processes and kept them in suspended animation. Your frog would be laid out, spread eagle on a board with pins stuck through its 4 webbed feet to hold it down.
Oh, Jesus.
You couldn't help notice the resemblance to a crucifixion.
No.
Did I mention this was Catholic school?
Yeah, well.
Where we were taught that abortion was against God's law because all life was sacred. We were told that it was better if the frogs were still alive so we could see the beating of their hearts. Father Flaherty did not laugh when I asked him, couldn't I just take his pulse? And he was even less amused when I refused to do it. That is, take a scalpel to a healthy living thing. I was surprised that I was the only one who wouldn't. I was not surprised that he gave me detention. I was just glad that he sent me immediately to the office of the principal. I didn't have to see the group exercise, but on my way out, I lifted a scalpel. After my detention, when there were way fewer people in, I went back and used the blade to pick the lock to the lab door. You can imagine what's coming.
Yeah.
I had a plan, albeit not that well thought out. No one would have to guess too hard to figure out who did it. But I didn't concern myself with consequences. I was thinking of the other frogs still sleeping in flat boxes, dreaming of warm buns and scrumptious, crunchy bugs. I would remove the boxes from the fridge, leave them lids open on the tables, leave the doors open as well. I wish now that I'd taken the boxes outside to give the frogs a fighting chance. As it was, a lot of them fell victim to the quite imaginative cruelty of my rammy teenage classmates, who next morning found them hopping happily all through the halls of that god-awful school. Yes, it was worth getting suspended. I may never have been popular, but for a few years later, I'd be legendary.
Britt Peter.
Brett is.
Yeah, man. Oh, George Lister after Britt. Give the man a round of applause. Come on, people, wake up out there. Drink my beer in peace while I get.
The evening's theme is joy.
Yes, it is.
Americana, the Lynn girls, my mother's family. The first 5 daughters were tough as boots, all living into their 80s. Uvalda, Roberta Jo, Merle, Winifred, and Ivy Bell. The prolific father, on reflection, named his last daughter Joy. Joy married a West Texas cop. I hadn't talked to her for years.
That's what we're talking about.
Joy, sister of elation, a welling up, seldom used in poems, but often trivialized in Hallmark cards. In the instant, a rush, joy quickly felt, putting the bow down at the end of a tune. One couple still dancing, the applause vaguely heard. A different joy, historical joy. Joy seldom portrayed in poems. I'll give you joy. Joy was her name, and she had a vivid memory. She told me about the night Joe Louis knocked out Max Schmeling. Joy in Harlem. Can you imagine the dimensions of that joy when all the kids, what seemed like the entire population, poured into the streets? This does come in under 5. A list of joys, not always a Christmas gift. The first bicycle, he told me it took a day's wages. Repainted 24-inch wind. The little port of Milnesburg, running into Lake Pontchartrain, jelly rolls, joys. You coming across an urban meadow with news of our first son, or our getting the last streetcar up Market Street when the Giants beat the Dodgers, 1962. Fans hanging from the lampposts. I could go on, other instances. A ringing of bells, a string of joys, something felt. Finally, ear joys. In Jelly Roll Morton's long dissertation at the Library of Congress, 1938, 3 days, a bottle of whiskey, a wire recorder, and a piano. It moved me that he did joys as well as the blues stomps too. Millenberg joys, Mamie's blues, King Porter's stomp. Oh, that loudmouth. I invented jazz in 1902. I thought I heard Buddy Bolton say, her feets were soaking wet. Hello, Central, give me Dr. Jazz. Worthy documentation, still heard, no write-outs yet.
Nice. That was good, Peter.
George Lister,
George Lister, and then?
and after George Lister is Owen.
Master George Lister is Mr. Ondo. Give the man a round of applause here, ladies and gentlemen. You know how we do it.
Storm clouds rising. They appear like what they are, in a salt and pepper sky, dancing on the wind. We've known since we were children it's about to change. Look, over there, where the mountains make their way up the ladder of the earth, cutting their way into the far reaches of heaven. The horizon shimmies and shakes like the fight is coming closer. The thunder hits like the clouds have turned solid and banged into each other. The air has gone wet with no rain, and the smell of cinnamon dances in front of my eyes. I remember the thrill, the chill of being young and watching the flashes in the distance overhead. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, until thunder hit with its magic that made me feel the earth and sky speaking. It touches both soft and hard, makes me feel laughing, glorious, small.
Oh, laughing
Thank you. It's called a rainbow day. So beautiful, stretching from horizon to horizon over a bumpy sea. All the colors I would expect, red to violet, resting easily and smiling. And black. That can't be. I blink and look again, but it's gone. I know I saw it, so I close my eyes, spin 3 times, and open slowly. No black. And no violet. Something ate one of the colors of the rainbow. I count them off again: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. No violet. I turn my head a bit so I'm not looking directly at it, and the black reappears. Now I know what to do. I close my eyes and spin 3 times the other way, open slowly. No black. No indigo. Somehow I'm able to call up the dark forces of the world. When they arrive, they eat rainbow light, piece by piece. I must stop doing this. If I keep going, there will be no more reds, oranges, yellows, greens, blues. The world will be dull gray, and the black will have no more light to give. So it will come after me. Come on, Paige. Sorry. The evil sneaks in when we're not looking. When we're walking down the street, head held high, singing a tune, happy and bringing kindness. Careful, love. It's a dark place, and we're all in this together. Thanks.
Thank you.
Not joy.
No.
Dolphin lands. He rises in the rolling sea, large, black skin, speckled in the morning sunlight. Close enough to hear the breath pouring from him before he glides down along his way, seeming to make no effort at all. We hang motionless, laughing, pointing, as they surround us close enough to hear, smell, but not touch. Look, another one, she points as the fin aims in our direction, then veers off. I can barely speak, only point. 2 come fast, right towards us, up close, then down, under, and up the other side. 2 swim by closer to shore than we are. They know we're here, and they're playing. The dolphins must wonder what strange creatures we are. How did they get all the way out here, and why don't they move, go under and up, play like we do? On and on it goes. We've entered their world, and they've welcomed us with their grace, their power, their smile, their friendliness. Creatures in perfect harmony with their world, unselfish, not taking more than they give. We are stunned, hanging in space, laughing, pointing, squealing, feeling tiny in a world of sea and life. Then they're gone. Now it's just the 2 of us, dots on the empty horizon of the vast Atlantic. Silence, the water moving gently under us. We hug, barely speaking, lonely, swim to shore. We deserve pancakes, she says.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Owen, don't go, for God's sake.
Mr. Owen,
Guy is after Owen. Thank you. Sometimes he moves the thing.
Thank you. Okay. This is my latest poem. Preciosity. On the shore the bathers wade far back in the park. Shade is cold, the sun is bright and shallow to the quiet of the sand and the quagmire that is life and liberty and property and the prosperity of the soul. Love finds a way, even in the freezing death from wind and sea. Save, throw up a stone. Last stand. Yesterday the stands were aglow with cheering and madness, a flow of booze and heads in the crowd, many faces with a sameness about them, flowers away with men, showers are on the way in another month or two. You smother your feelings of cold and boredom. Of course it is the end game and the result of all mankind, its foibles and trials. Football, the result of years of strife and travail. Sacred grounds. Sunrise, surprise. See all who bear up under our screw and work. All under our plunder and blunder into the valley. Asunder and wonder, there is out there, why and move the yoke of rhyme. I am riding underneath a sky of darkness and gloom. Yes, my friend, gloom is back, and I ride on the sand of knowledge and surf. Surprises come and go at sunrise. The sky is dark, like a wall of cement. Poema. This life I live to live and to love as best I can. I jive myself, but I wonder about people I meet. Not asunder, but keep tight ramblings, a class of myself about myself. Bay Area, the comings and goings of people, all of whom come above me, all of them. My poem breaks from the pole like free verse, free at last. Rhymes come and go, they clang like Poe, drunk and mystic of American life and letters. Prose is like an albatross, a goony bird. It begins awkwardly on the ground, but once in the air, it takes off and soars gracefully above us. Halloween poem. Halloween is 2 days ahead. Trick or treat. I feel no dread of people, children, and adults dressed to kill. A pumpkin is blessed. A gap-toothed jack-o'-lantern glowing against a full moon. Flowing karma almost like a Van Gogh painting. A starry night. Row ahead, you intrepid yuppies. But I ask, where is the shore? Our overweight coxswain Donald Trump lays low and hopes for the best. Stroke, the witching hour is far and near. Birthday, today is. I turn 75. Arrive at the Trieste, the Waldorf. Connive, it is though I am in New York. Time of play and of work, and a penance of the way I took to be spirit. Say what I mean and how I want to mean it. See myself as others see me and not as I see myself, and I might go absolutely mad. I fight people's opinions as though it were a swarm of flies. They say no truth. I tell no lies. Poema. The day after I turned 75, yes, it's good to be alive. There are days ahead. I paddle in my mind, sigh, a whisper here and no here. Now and then there is here, bow and scrape to the here and now. It was yesterday, a grand ball. It is tomorrow. A poem is like a race. It begins with rhyme, then breaks with a pole of free verse. You are free, Whitman. Rejoice in your words. To Don Brennan, this Claire Hazoo asked me to do this. Your metaphors are a lonely outpost that I pray to in silence, like the aloneness of love. I am the alone quality of your poetry, as your metaphors are those of the earth. Sleep. Sleep came like a cameo. The rain has vanished with sleep and a metaphor. Sleep comes softly and bleats like a sheep. The night goes slowly like a new neon lord. Calm the afternoon branches of fate and gloom. I write in a room that murmurs like a womb. My mind is like a tomb. No metaphors came in slipper green.
Thank you, Mr. Owen.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Guy. And after Guy is Stephanie Owen.
Man, Owen.
Man.
Oh, we signed you in. We got you. Give me. All right. You've been here before, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, just want to make sure, because I sometimes say, I'm now for someone who hasn't been here, I say, but I've been here.
But it's been a while. Thank
That's
you.
right. All right, give him a nice round. This is John. Right back.
In the parking lot of a church under a Saturday sun, the poet behind the mic says, I had brain surgery 7 days ago. Buy my chapbook and I'll show you my scars. After the final reader of the dwindling crowd, I approach her with a 10 and view the scars, beautiful as they are. They're on the page.
Oh.
I want to share a couple of short pieces from my new book. It's by Kaiso Flash and it's called Edible Grace.
Do you have copies here?
Just this one.
Oh, well, then
Yeah.
people will be interested. We'll talk to
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. This one's called Paperclip Mechanics. You take a paperclip with its simple functional designs, its etch-a-sketch lines, and twist it into a two-legged creature with no head or arms. You straighten it out, turn it into a pipe cleaner covered in resin, into a scratch-all and carve initials into your locker next to the scrawlings made by others before you, a paperclip registry of sorts. You discover its utility as a key to open locks and handcuffs. You shape it into a circle whose ends don't quite meet up, and you realize, once bent, it can never be bent back to its original shape to hold, say, that sheath of papers you would like to organize and keep together, those stories of your life. You look at your crooked fingers, your crooked handwriting, your slant on the world, and now your crooked paperclip with its principles of torsion and history of resistance. You decide the sheath of papers will make do as a pile that will get shuffled, lost, recycled, someday trashed. And you understand, finally, it's not the keeping of them together, the organizing of them for eternity or the semester or the rest of the calendar year that matters, but the moments spent uncovering simple epiphanies, like the wonder of the paperclip and its simple design, the flowing of ink on the page, the momentary meaning of this life, and the unfolding function into new shapes, yet unborn, yet unbent.
Yeah.
I'll close with this one. It's called Farmer's Market Poet. At the small Friday farmer's market, a Greek woman sells produce from her family's farm in San Juan Bautista. I admire the hearts of romaine, and she explains how she and her husband try to avoid bread and make their sandwiches with romaine instead. Their 11-year-old son has decided he wants to eat his sandwiches that way as well. And now his friends at school eat theirs that way too. And I think, what wonderful parents and teachers, so natural, no insistence. The light falls on those who rise. Others notice or don't. I look at the bin of summer squash, delicious looking and sweet. One is half yellow, half green. Ah, she says, that one was kissed by a zucchini. She's a poet. I mention this. She says, I never write anything down. And I think, not all poets are writers, and not all poems make the page.
Shirley Manning, the wonderful, magical, and eternal.
And after Stephanie, is Tommy.
After Stephanie, Tommy coming back. All right. Grant. Oh, you know.
Whene'er I see love's lightly, my life escaping backwards into the perspective along converging rails, each time I waken sad to see the distance, love's blush and me, as I travel backwards into the distance from love, I realize I am love, not love between two people, but love, not the God is love, not love God or love of God, no, just love of sun, sunsets, the dawn, love of birds and nature. Just love, not between two terminals, and no one cares if I am love or if you are love. Just warmth in autumn's dying light as I travel further and further out of life. No station stop, forever traveling this path, this way, back, 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 forever seeing where I've been. So much music plays within my head. No one cares about it. I put out and rest and entertain myself or eat food and renewed come back from the journey backwards into the perspective towards the vanishing point where old age takes us. And all along the way, Indian medicine, sacred colors, wind and wildlife to fill our musical minds with meaning, but only if one looks outside of self, outside of love, or judgments, forecasts, horrifications, mood swings reeling from pain of memory, from pain, on, backing away, on a journey unknowable and unforeseen. Thank you.
And after Tommy is Robert.
Okay. Tommy then Robert.
So,
So,
I'm a news junkie and I read a lot of news stories, and I've came across this story about how in Ohio, the state legislature just passed a law that said a kid could not be marked wrong on a test if he was reflecting his religious beliefs.
No.
That seems fair.
It gave birth to this poem.
Right.
In Ohio, up is down, yellow is blue. The world is flat or triangular, or maybe not a world at all. Everything depends on your religious belief. How old is the earth? 10,000 years if you're a creationist. Any answer based on your scriptures is correct. Religious freedom, they call it. A teacher can't give you an F if you still think sickness is caused by evil spirits. Exorcism, anyone? I hear they're doing them in the state senate. 2 for the price of 1. Some say it's the dumbing down of America. I say that ship sailed a long time ago.
Oh!
Well, that's true, isn't it?
there'd be calm somewhere. We don't even know.
So the other thing that I've been reading about lately is that in the last 3 years, no surprise, hate crimes have risen nationally by something like 16%.
You don't say.
It got me to remember something from my youth. They wouldn't take a report. It was our fault. They wouldn't take my friend to the hospital, his contact lens crushed against his eye. One of the cops asked what we had done to provoke the kids who followed us off the subway, calling us faggots. They pounced on my friend. The person behind the fare booth called the cops, who wouldn't take a report. They walked away. I helped my friend up to the street, hailed a cab to the emergency room. My friend kept his hand over his eye as we sat in the back seat, holding on to each other. Neither one of us could stop shaking. And finally, today is Transgender Remembrance Day, and it's a day to remember the violence and killings of transgender people that are at epidemic proportions right now in this country. This poem was written for Joana Medina Leon and Roxana Hernandez Rodriguez, who were 2 trans women who crossed the border and then died in U.S. detention camps. They still don't know her name. They never did. She was like a tumbleweed, the shadow cast by a shadow. She came here to be safe, to earn money, to have her own life. She was part of a caravan that was called by many ugly names. None of them fit her. Her name was beautiful, the one she chose. They wouldn't say it. Told her she wasn't a woman. Told her to sit like a man, walk like a man. Put her in isolation because she was harassed, beaten in their detention center. She was raped by 4 men before she left her country, crossed a border, a line drawn in the sand by men who had stolen the land from others. She complained of being sick. They wouldn't listen. They denied her medicine, hormones. When she died, an autopsy found bruises on her body. Still, they refused to believe what had happened, refused to recognize her name. Now, we must howl every day like the wind, shake the earth beneath them. Never let them forget her name. Thank you.
Tony. And after Robert is me?
Jefferson Unplugged, Philadelphia, summer 1776. Rough notes and raw first draft. Declaration of take your colonial rule farce and guided vigorously up your royal arse. We hold these presumptions to be as commonplace as the snuff we sniff, that all white male property owners are created equally superior to all other life forms of nature, more or less, give or take, and they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable prerogatives, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of enslaved nubile Nubians. That's the ticket. You're on a rhetorical roll. Go for the glory historical, you red-haired rascal, rebel, rabble, rouser, writer, you. Compile additional list of grievances, grumbles, and gripes. Refer to King George as royal whack job. Blah, 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 blah. Finish on a somber note. Something about pledging our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. No, scratch that. Leave it at we pledge our honor. That's good enough for respectable Republican gentlemen. Moderation in the defense of liberty is no vice, or something like that. Additional notes to self. Encourage that accursed and accused smuggler posing as an insurance peddler to seize the quill and be the first to sign. Nothing will give this thing the branding it needs better than that cocky Hancock's grandly gay penmanship.
Yeah.
Find out where to obtain decent Bordeaux in this burgeoning brotherly burg. Order several dozen cases. Charge it to Franklin. Word on the street, he's the man around here. I like old Ben, and old Ben likes young Tom. We speak the same language, French.
Yeah, we speak the same language. I like that. Sorry, see if you can frame me in. It's uh-oh. I knocked out the plug.
It's sacred grounds. Can't make fun of Ben Franklin.
Sitting around the campfire. My campfire girl. There's a lot of words in the I used to do in the Boy Scouts. I was never mind. So just a quick note in the order of things happening. We may change things up a little tiny bit. Some people who are in the second half may actually come to the first half because we want to time the arrival of the features assistance individuals with the arrival of the features time slot. So we may adjust things so that you are happily set and set.
You can all go first.
That's what I'm saying. We will figure it all out.
And then leave.
Thank you. So the theme is joy. And these three poems do not mention joy specifically. However, there might be laughter that happens, and that will pass for joy. Since we are near the Christmas season, I've written something to the tune of "Oh Christmas Tree," and you'll remember George Zimmerman from a few years back. Okay, so this connects those two things. This is how a brain works. It's kind of this song, that man, you know. Oh Zimmerman, George Zimmerman. Oh, Georgie, you're a rump head. You killed and you have fame, that's sure. You beat your wife, but refused the cure. Oh, Zimmerman, you really are so famous. You shot your wad and lied, you know, then blabbed on a foxy talk show. Oh, Zimmerman, you really are an anus. A star at redneck gun trade shows, wrote a book that really blows. Oh Zimmerman, you really are so famous. Then you had an idea grand to auction that gun, what a plan. Oh Zimmerman, you really are an anus. Now who will buy it? I'd like to know. Would it be Trump or Idaho? Oh Zimmerman, dear Zimmerman, you are a famous anus. See a little bit, and this goes back to the Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, the Beatles song, which I took it and rewrote because we had a Mr. K recently going through the processes of becoming a Supreme Court justice. And so anyway, I'll try to sing it in tune, but you'll forgive me if I just go a bit of rye or a wheat or an oat. Never mind. The celibate man, Mr. K, put on his robe this Saturday without fanfare. His wife and children stood right there as a fat old judge read through the text without a care. Over rights and laws and people's blood he lied and hid his boozing rages with care. In this way Mr. K will challenge the world. The GOP did dance and sing as K prevaricated in the ring. The show was great. Messrs. K and T assure the public this production will be second to none. And of course all we saw was nothing but schmaltz. The FBI played out their tricks so Mr. T could tweet abuse without a sound. And Mr. K did remonstrate, with tears and anger demonstrate, he's on solid ground. Having been some years in preparation, a horrid time is guaranteed to Paul. And tonight, both the K's will be having a ball. And last but not least, so it made kind of a sensical sort of thing. I don't know the tune to this song, so I just can read the words. And this is my Dear Ann letter. Dear Ann letter. Ann, what's his name? Ann Coulter. And this is inspired by a letter from my friend who asked me to write this, and I came across that. Most of this is his, but a lot of it is mine, and that's unfortunate. I want a girl who uses knee pads like a whore, so she won't snag her nylons on Rush Limbaugh's floor. Who sips OxyContin into his tumbler of neat scotch as they drag amputees in a Vietnam vet march. Who licks Cuban cigars with G. Gordon Liddy and drinks with Tom DeLay because he thinks she's kind of pretty. Who'd love to throw a brick at dumb old Howard Dean, then kickbox her way through the crowd to get away clean. A girl who'd tattoo a Hummer on her vibrator machine because it doesn't burn enough Iraqi gasoline. Yes, a girl who paves her own exclusive driveway with the headstones of those she's backstabbed in her day. A girl who makes lampshades that take away her breath. From the fatty skin of liberals she's skinned alive to death, with a blowtorch tongue that etches her initials into hippies on a rack for hot and sexy thrills. A girl with fascist delusions, fast and feckless, who attacks, who wears Ray-Bans at midnight, creates her own facts, who gets real juicy dreaming of hot Nazi sex that finally sets her free, who loves the hate crime scene in her cheap law degree. I want a girl with a real short fuse and long, vicious rants, who disposes of the helpless, the poor, as she passionately pants. A real drive-by babe with her neocon hips tightly skirted in her flag, who'll go down on a popelet while eternally on the rag.
Oh.
Yes, dear God, I want a girl with a voice as pure as cyanide glass, with a sweaty leather thong and swastikas on her skinny white ass.
Oh.
A girl whose machete wins her debates. I want someone bolder, with fingernails like razors, whose initials are and colder. And now to take that.
Al's up.
Hal, he's gonna clean the palate, as they say, as it were. What? Come on, Hal!
What happened to Al?
Observing the theme of joy, this is an excerpt from Dejection, an ode by Coleridge. My genial spirits fail, and what can these avail to lift the smothering weight from off my breast? It were a vain endeavor, though I should gaze forever on that green light that lingers in the west. I may not hope from outward forms to win the passion and the light whose fountains are within. O lady, we receive but what we give, and in our life alone does nature live. Ours is her wedding garment, ours her shroud, and would we aught behold of higher worth than that inanimate, cold world allowed to the poor, loveless, ever anxious crowd? Ah, from the soul itself must issue forth a light, a glory, a fair luminous cloud enveloping the earth. And from the soul itself must there be sent a sweet and potent voice of its own birth, of all bright sounds, the soul and element. O pure of heart, thou needst not ask of me what this strong music in the soul may be, what and wherein it doth exist, this light, this glory, this fair luminous mist, this beautiful and beauty-making power. Joy, virtuous lady, joy that ne'er was given save to the pure and in their purest hour.
life and life's effluence, cloud at once and shower. Joy, lady, is the spirit and the power which wedded nature gives to us in dower. A new earth and a new heaven, undreamt of by the sensual and the proud. Joy is the soft voice, joy the luminous cloud. We in ourselves rejoice, and thence comes all that charms or ear or sight, all melodies, the echo of that voice, all colors, a suffusion from that light. There was a time, before my path was rough, this joy within me dallied with excess, and all misfortune seemed but as the stuff whence fancy made me dreams of happiness. For hope grew round me like the clinging vine, and fruits and foliage, not my own, seemed mine. But now oppressions bear me down to earth, nor care I that they rob me of my mirth. But oh, each visitation suspends what nature gave me at my birth, my shaping spirit of imagination. For not to think of what I needs must feel, but to be still and quiet all I can, and haply by abstruse research to steal from my own nature all the natural man. This was my sole recourse, mine only plan, till that which suits the part infects the whole, and now hath almost grown the habit of my soul.
Yeah. So we're adjusting our cycle, and Buford's coming up next, and then followed by Mr. Alan Harris, and then we might have one or two others before the feature goes on, because we're adjusting our time scale, and we're all being paid scale. Right.
Double overtime, okay?
Yeah, yeah. Why don't you come here with us and make sure you got this where you like it. All right. Okay, there you go.
With extra icing.
On the cake.
This is called San Francisco nightlife. Haight-Ashbury, people on the street, some desperate, some waiting around, kids who think they know too much, reflection of in a window pane inside lantern light lights. Outside, older man with A's cap, followed by semi-older woman, I guess, who's middle class, no, too poor. Androgynous teen kid with white, I hate it, I did this again. White hand, eyes, the warm food inside the restaurant haunt. Okay, this one's better, I hope. More in the mood for love. More in the mood for love. I adore you, as you say, and you seem to really like me. Love is usually hard to come by, must be worked at. Adoration is a natural state. I adore you, and you seem to really like me. We work on our lives. I'm not quite as lucky as you are, having lost my job, though getting paid still as a residual. Not working is weird, for I, who hasn't missed many days and 9 years in this and other jobs, in this same school system. We walk cheek to cheek, love always here, or just around the corner. I reach out for you there.
Nice.
Oh, I'm at Brown.
Facsimile.
How can we miss you if you don't go away?
That's my question.
Stay away. Stay away.
It's beautiful. It's
Is
beautiful to be back in San Francisco, and I mean that as much as I've ever meant anything, which I haven't really ever meant anything. But
Well, you know,
no, it's fantastic to be back. This is where I belong. I'm here to stay, and you're stuck with me, so deal with it. It's interesting how some people deal with things.
Allen Ginsberg.
The Titanic sails a dog.
Be warned, there will be swearing. In fact, there's going to be a lot of swearing. That's how I express myself. Profanely, crudely, offensively, obscenely, in a direct, aggressive, no-holds-barred, take-no-prisoners. And if you can't handle that, well, you're welcome to leave. No one's holding you here against your will. There's the door. No, not there. It's over there, at the other end of the room. Now, turn left. You see the door? No, not that door. That's the door to the men's room. You see the little stick figure drawing of the man on it? You see the word men underneath that? You see the sign that says restrooms are for customers only underneath that? That's because that's the door to the men's room. The exit is next to it. No, to the right of it. No, the other right. Oh my God! It has the word exit in big red letters above it! Are you blind, or do you just not know how to read? You know what? Why don't you just come back and sit down? When I'm finished, I will show you where the exit is. No, I can't do it now. I'm busy reading my poem. Yes, the one with all the swearing. I understand the point of you wanting to leave is so that you won't have to sit through my piece and listen to all the swearing in it. But you know what? There's a very good chance that the next poet who comes up here is also going to read a poem that has swearing in it. Poets often use profanity. It's a very effective form of expression. And I'll tell you something else. You want to go to poetry readings, you better lose that easily offended sensibility of yours. Poetry ain't beanbag. Poetry is life. And in life, people swear. And some poets reflect that. They confront the readers of their poems with the raw, ugly language of real people living real lives. It's the poetry of the modern world, of profound confusion, soul. And you expect a poet to express that without swearing? No, sorry. You're in the wrong place. And there's the door. No, not there. The other end of the room. Now turn left. No, that's the door to the men's room. It's the door to the right. No, the other right. You know what? Hold on. I'll be right there. Here's in case you're wondering, here's a clue as to why I came back.
Why did you leave?
Oh, that's a whole
other.
That's a solo
question.
show.
Yeah, rhetorical question, sir.
I've landed in the land of the cliche. In search of the past, I find only the present, and the present sucks. My beloved grittiness has been replaced by structured reality, hectic relaxation, narcissistic politeness, day of rest traffic jams, tumbleweed Scientologists, a failed actor teaching a class on how to walk and chew gum at the same time, one morgue after another filled with zombie poets, skincare browbeaters making lofty promises about rejuvenation and defiance of the aging process, velvet ropes around the entrances of drugstores with big muscular guys out in front of them deciding who is or isn't worthy enough to enter the store in order to buy Q-tips. And as for the sun, well, the sun can kiss my ass. I only like going to the beach right before it's about to rain, when the sky is dark and foreboding, and the storm clouds are gathering, and the ocean is spitting wave after agitated wave onto the shore, and no one in their right mind would be there, just us anti-beach people, on the run from the pro-sun militias that roam the streets of this gentrified sprawl, where epiphanies are fragmented, where the generations are segregated, where everyone is a little lonely, and where I owe my car an apology. Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. Yes, in continuing with our adjustment of the time factor and continuous. Thank you. You are now.
Can we continue?
You are framed.
I'm framed.
You may continue.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Mose. If you want to know what that means, you know what to do. Come see me. This is a full story, beginning, middle, and end. I'm trying to do it under 4.5 minutes or so. Eddie Jones, the man who loved too much. Eddie Jones had very little education, few journeyman skills, and his social skills were almost non-existent. People stayed away from him, except women. Women were charmed by his quiet demeanor. Eddie never crossed words with women. He never mistreated a woman, even when he was drunk. Eddie was sweet and silly, the wives all admitted at his funeral. His good whiskey on his breath gave him a manly odor of machismo, and the wives ate it up. The legacy of Eddie Jones is he had affairs with all of his neighbors' wives. A total of 10, rumor had it. The 10 husbands decided to do something. Their integrity, their presence and stature at home was deeply diminished. The men wanted revenge and restore order at home. The first attempt on Eddie's life began when Eddie got drunk and some of the husbands at the bar decided to leave him outside to die of hypothermia. They found Eddie passed out at a block away from the bar, Stinky Farley. 3 husbands grabbed his legs and another 2 pulled up his arms, and they dragged Eddie onto a pile of loose trash. They layered Eddie with numerous newspapers, cardboards, and open cans. They walked back into Stinky Farley's to celebrate. At 5 a.m. the next day, when Stinky Farley opened the doors, the first person through the door was Eddie, smiling, but smelling like soured eggs and old meat, and attire was completely disheveled, unrecognizable. His slacks were split open, food all over his shirt, and his wrinkled blazer. The husbands attempted 4 more times to rid of Eddie, all failed. The second attempt, for example, was food poisoning with 2 weeks old oysters. Eddie passed out and then woke up with a stomachache and promptly vomited the entire poisonous oysters. Then they tried rat poison, and that didn't work. So they attempted to kill him by running him over. But he recovered after a broken left leg, a broken right arm, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured jaw. The rat poison didn't work, but the rat poison did kill the neighbor's Cocker Spaniel, who ate the tainted raw meat left on a kitchen table by one of the husbands, and so his dog Fido swallowed the poison tainted steak whole. The last attempt consisted of burning down Eddie's studio. Eddie had taken the last bus to Los Angeles at midnight and wasn't home when the apartment complex caught fire at 3 a.m., caused by a faulty kitchen wire on the refrigerator. These attempts on Eddie's life went on for 5 years. Meanwhile, Eddie added more wives to his list of affairs. Then, without warning, Eddie dies. He was taking a shower when a cockroach raced across the edge of the bathtub. Eddie took a swing at the bug, slipped, and his forehead hit squarely on the edge of the bathtub. He died instantly. The husbands were all pissed. The wives were all devastated. Eddie lived a quiet life, but changed the lives of 20 of his neighbors. Eddie, a man who couldn't be killed, and a man who loved too much.
Dan.
Yeah.
My accompaniment is here.
Okay, so then we're ready to go?
I don't know. We ready to go?
I'm just making sure. All right. So we're gonna.
Want to have a break?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce you.
Oh, come on.
So do you want to take a break and then come back after the break? You want to do that so you can get?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to take a break and come back to the feature so he can get organized. We can get organized.
Before he starts talking about me, I don't like being talked about.
Okay. All right. So then, touch the square.
Cut.